Hi, Jennifer. I love the color of your headset. This is
Thank
really,
you. Blue is my signature color.
oh, yeah, you are rocking that signature color. I love it.
Thank you.
It's so wonderful to have you on the Everyday Mystic. Thank you for joining me.
I am so excited about this and thank you for asking. This is a great way to start a day. I love
I
this.
know.
I
Yeah,
mean, who
I
am I
love.
kidding? I've been up since 6, right? I've walked the dog. I've grocery shopped. I went to the bank. I did 2 clients. I mean, like, who am I kidding?
Wow. Yeah, you've
I
had a
know.
day already,
Yeah,
like a full day for some people.
exactly.
Amazing. Well, I'm so happy to have you here. We met recently. A woman who is a friend of yours saw me speak, and the topic I was speaking on, she then connected us in the ethereal realms and said, "You two have to speak." So,
Yeah, she's
uh,
texting me like, "Oh my god, this woman, you have to talk to her." And I was like, "Okay, thanks, Annie." I'm like, "Are you?" She's like, "I gotta go," but I just went. I love the Annie. Yeah,
oh yeah, and that seems like that's her operating system. Like she's just like do like such a like a spark and lights things up
she's like a
and goes.
firefly, actually.
Yeah.
Right? And sometimes you're like, "I want to catch up. Where did it go?" Yeah.
Right. That's exactly my experience of her. Well, I'm really happy to that we get to catch each other in this
Yes.
space for a moment in time and talk about the soul. You have connected with not only your own soul, but have opened up to, I would say, eternal soul in the soul language program. I don't know if that's the best word to call it, but the you can put more language to it, but soul language and what that means and how that connects us, humanity, to our soul. But let's talk a little bit about you and how this developed for you. Have you always felt this connection to your soul, or did this come at a specific time and place? And what's the story?
Yeah, I mean, I think I always was intuitive, which is not so much being connected to your soul, but is, right? Like, I think that's the second layer of really utilizing your intuition, knowing that your intuition is your soul speaking. But I was always intuitive as a kid. I remember my dad coming in. I'd be like, "Great grandmother died." He's like, "Did your mother tell you?" And I was like, "No, you came in," and I just popped. It like popped. But when I started around 33, 34, 35, I realized I was really angry. And I was not really happy. I was really good at my job. I wasn't allowed to talk to clients, but I was allowed to talk to media. Clients, I would tell the truth. I would also do that with the media. Media loved that. Clients hated it. And a friend of mine said her intuitive coach said to her, "I think Jennifer needs to talk to so and so." And I talked to so and so, and I took her 6-week program one on one. It was more money at that time that I spent on myself, including trips to Paris and to Alaska. And I was different after the 6 weeks. I was more my essential nature. And that was the first stone on my path, right? And that put me asking really big questions, trying to find out more about my soul, trying to be more connected, trying to discover and really fully accept myself. And here I am 20 years later, and I'm just about accepting myself. No, I mean, right. No, I mean, I accept myself more than I've ever had, but I think there's always more to accept yourself
Mhm.
and there's always more to love yourself. But I was asking really big questions in 2008, like, okay, I know my life purpose. Why am I here? Where are my people? And you know what, God, I'm still really angry.
Mm.
And I went to a conference where I was speaking about essential oils and life purpose. And I sat down next to this woman. She went, "We're going to be friends." And I went, in my outside voice, "Yeah." And my inside voice, I went, like, "Why her? And not this other woman across the way who's really nice, but I don't care if I ever see her again. Like, what is that?" And what I heard was soul language. And I was like, "Oh, I'm going to keep asking questions." And about 6 months later, I had a paradigm that put tangibility to soul. And I went back to that woman And I was like, I'm doing this thing called soul language, and I'd like to identify your soul languages. And we had a language in common.
Mm.
So my soul and her soul actually understood each other, and our human, like we would tell stories. And even though the details were different, the core experience was so vividly the same. And I was like, oh my God, I can understand what you're saying. I've been there. Not from a point of I understand, like, but truly everything resonated. So that's the short version of a very long and bumpy road. And I've been utilizing soul language ever since.
Mm. So tell us more about the actual language, or I guess maybe the translation and of the language. How does that work not only in how you utilize it, but how is it working within us that we have and then are able to share this with someone like you?
Yeah. So we each have three core energies of soul. We call those languages: your mission, how you fuel that mission, and then your soulful personality. So I can identify that energy and give a one liner to every soul. And that becomes your mild marker of consciousness. If you're not being and doing that, you're going to create struggle. So my soul languages are: my mission is called equalizer. It's all about balance, creating that perfect formula of balance first for myself and then for others. How I'll be known here is called teacher of integrity. So I can see where people are out of the consciousness of love for themselves. I offer them the chance to get back in, and that means back into balance and an unstoppable freight train of goodness. And then the third category is about our soulful personality, how our soul prefers to go through life. So my language in that category is called graceful warrior: action, movement, courage, and grace. Now, most of my life at war with everything. I've crashed cars because I was at war, right?
Mm.
So that was my big kind of, it still is. I mean, I'm getting yelled at by my soul, but in a good way. They're like, so is balance. We have to do more balance? The one liner of my soul is I create balance for myself and others through love, integrity, and courage. So if that, am I not being and doing that, I'm going to create struggle in my life. And that becomes my mile marker of consciousness. How everyone is using their soul language or their energy of their soul, think of it like this. Okay. The divinity, God, universe, tree, Bob, cupcake, whatever you call that, is the giant batter of cake. And we have taken the cake batter and taken parts of that cake batter to utilize in this lifetime, right? We want to achieve something. And the divine and us sit down and go, you know what you need this time around, Jen? You need to understand how to be a conscious warrior. So you're going to utilize the energy of divinity of graceful warrior. Good luck with that, Jen.
Yeah,
Right?
now go have fun.
Go. Smell you later, right? And so that's how we utilize our soul energy. And nobody has any more power than anyone else. It's how we utilize that energy. So technically, there's nothing different between me and the Dalai Lama. He's just really good at utilizing his energy consciously, right? And when we have words to what that energy is inside, it allows our humanness to go, oh, I'm doing this. Let's tune in. Let's shift that energy so I can do something different.
What kind of advice would you give to people to tune in to that soul language, to hear their mission and to get started? Because we're all here for it.
Yeah.
We're all here for that. But not all of us hear, with our inner voice what that mission is. So do you have any advice to tune in?
Yeah. First of all, let's just rewrite what I have this whole entire book called That's Not Your Effing Purpose, because so often people do mission and purpose and they're really torturing themselves. You're being your mission and purpose right now. You might not be doing the delivery systems, but you're being your mission and purpose. So I think so often people are confused about their mission and purpose. So their purpose or their mission is not about anyone else. We are not here to empower women from ages 14 to blah, blah, blah. We're not here for that, right? Okay. What you are here for is something much more profound. So I always tell people, let's ask yourself one question. What do you want everyone on this planet, including yourself, to experience?
Mm.
And if you're not experiencing that, That's your first step in really being and living your purpose. Then you can understand your delivery systems of that. And people are going to get the big ones. They're going to get love or joy or peace, or right? You're getting that because it's big. And they're like, well, that's not very detailed oriented. Start with that, because if you're not being that, it's going to be hard to find the secret sauce of that thing. And so often people don't want to do the big. They want the details in order to feel safe. The details don't make you safe. It's the bigness that makes you feel safe.
Mm. Which is a different, I think, paradigm than what most people think, because when something is so big, it can feel overwhelming, right?
Right.
It can feel like, oh, this is too much, or maybe I'm not worthy of this bigness.
Yeah, it's a very good point, because as you were talking, I was thinking, oh wait, what we're really saying is that bigness is, oh my God, where's my individuality? Like, that's what freaks out humans. They are afraid of losing their individuality, but in that bigness, you are the individualization of the one. And there's only three causes of separation, which is unworthy, love is conditional, or you feel unworthy of love. And Jennifer Boom and I were teaching a class for warriors on money. And we came up with those three things. And when you break all your little beliefs down and go, oh, there it is again, love is conditional. It's a way to go pause and go, okay, I feel separate. I'm creating struggle. I feel love is conditional. How can I tune into my soul to move from that conditional state to something bigger? And it becomes this great dance rather than playing that game of, oh my God, I'm dying and everything's about life and death. No, we get to kind of stop feeling all the time in our bodies like we're being chased by bears and really start to live in balance more.
Mhm. Because there are so many people that are living in that fight and flight, like they're being chased by bears. What do you recommend, and what do you do on a daily basis to settle that and, nervous system energy, and to get in tune and align with your soul?
Yeah, you want to try something very simple?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay, so I'm going to use the word divine intelligence here. That is your physical form. Your body, no free will. It's your mind and heart that has free will. If we ask our body to raise its hand, it must comply. It's never going to go, you know what, I could, but I don't really feel like it. Why don't you get back to me tomorrow? Right? So when we use divine intelligence, our body, to put us in a consciousness, it will get there, even if we've never felt it before, if we get on that bus. So close your eyes, and everyone can do this while you're watching, but if you're driving, please don't do this. Close your eyes. And here goes. You don't have to repeat, just be with the words. Divine intelligence, fill my body with the feeling and knowing of profound safety. And tell me how you feel.
Calm.
Yeah, I yawned, which is a release of energy for me, right? So I say to people, keep doing that until you feel the shift, right? And if you don't feel the shift, then you're holding on, and you have to ask yourself why. You're in resistance with that. Right. So that's one. I think another key thing is really checking that central energetic channel that goes from your tailbone to your top of your head. It corresponds with the chakras, and really seeing if it's straight like a piece of cooked spaghetti, right? Uncooked spaghetti, straight like a piece of uncooked spaghetti, not brittle, just straight. If it looks like a piece of cooked spaghetti, that means that you're engaging in everyone else's emotions and you're actually trying to take them on. And that's not good for anyone. And that is hard to listen to your soul because there's a lot of chatter in your head.
Mhm.
So simply, we use our body to go divine intelligence, align body and soul. And the first time I did that, over 10 years ago, I felt something go from here back into place. It's never been like that drastic, but I was like, what the heck was that? Right? Like, literally, my whole energy was over here and it moved back into alignment. And that will allow you to just to be more and to hear more.
Mhm.
And you have to practice the pause. Everyone moves so fast, right?
I love how you're talking about talking to yourself and getting in this practice of having those self conversations. And it can
Mhm.
be as simple as that of just asking. And for those who didn't grow up with God, didn't grow up with prayer, it might seem a little bit different for you to have those conversations with something outside of yourself. And also, I'll say to those who did grow up with God, but that maybe they renounced that connection, this going back to something like this could also feel uncomfortable. But it is what you're talking about is essentially connecting to the power of divine intelligence to have that conversation with the self,
Yeah,
with our soul.
with
But
our
you can
soul.
just simply start by just talking to
Right.
yourself. Like you might, pray to God, like, oh God, please, help me through this hard time. You can talk to yourself in that way, is what you're saying, right?
Right. You are whatever you call that. I don't care if you want to, pray to a rock or, the giant, I forget what I used to call it, like master builder in the sky. That's what I used to call it, right? Like, I don't care, right? But when you have that ability to feel really as though you are one, go out in nature, one with something else, that allows you to really start to listen and to be guided by the knowing and not by the programming,
Mhm.
right?
Yeah.
I'll never forget, I was at the airport once and my wallet was like on the counter. It was blinking at me. And I was like, no, 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 I got things to do. I can't listen to you right now, but it was blinking. I was like, I got to go through, the whole scanning thing. So I go through the scanning process. I pass these water bottles and the water bottles are blinking at me. And I'm like, I've got water. And it's blinking. I was like, fine. And I go into my purse to get my wallet. It's back on the counter. And the announcer, when I got back there, they're like, we've been calling you for half an hour. I'm like, really? Because I didn't hear anything. And that's really important because when we are deciding what we think is right, when we are in fear, they could come over the loudspeaker and you still won't hear them. So the more that you pause and go within, you're going to be aware of things that you haven't been aware of that will actually make your life easier versus you deciding what you think you should be doing.
Yeah. What other signs do you look for? I mean, we're talking about real voices coming through a loudspeaker, or you're actually visually seeing something lighting up and pulling your attention. What other types of signs not only do you see, but that maybe other that clients see or that you know about, so that people can be aware of the information and where that comes from?
Yeah. So numbers really come up for a lot of people. If you keep seeing the same number over and over, if every time you look at the clock, it's 1111, which is angelic numbers. I think also I get a lot of information through the TV. I know that sounds really like tinfoil paper hattish, but I will ask a question. And I remember watching Sleepy Hollow. And I grew up in Westchester County, so Sleepy Hollow was literally down the road from us. And I remember asking a question, and all of a sudden Ichabod Crane is like answering it. And I was like, oh, that's the, like, okay, right? Like, so that happens to me a lot. I also like to do lab experiments, right? Like, um, I was sitting in my car a couple of years ago and I was like really mad. I was like, all right, God, you better let me know that you know I exist and I want my dead dad to be like looking after me and I'm really angry. And a song comes on the radio that my dad liked. I was like, yeah, that's too freaking easy. And the announcer comes on. He goes, thanks so much for making all those requests. And, all those places where we would hear music, including, and he went through all these like bars, including Brothers 3. And I drove off the road because that was the name of my father's bar that I forgot he had.
Wow.
Right. And so there are signs all around us. Often I'll be like, for me, one of the signs of abundance and a visual that I do are those little fluffy things that are on the dandelions. I see those going out into the universe and coming back tenfold. And when I'm feeling down, there'd be a little fluffy thing. Like I've seen them on highways. Like there's no one went in my driver's side window, out around the passenger, up around the driver, back to the passenger, and landed on my wallet. And I was like, okay, I give up, God. I get it. Like, I get it. So, I think you want to set up your lab experiment and be consistent about it and be open about it. Normally, when you're first starting out, you want a very vivid and clear sign. You don't want an iffy sign. So, and have fun with it. Know that if the sign doesn't come, that there's nothing wrong with you. Maybe we need to shift a little kind of asking for it.
And that's such an important key is the asking. Like you mentioned that you'll ask questions and then you have the TV, the character on the show actually answer that. The asking of questions and the insatiable curiosity to know the self and know and understand this realm and all realms and what we're capable of is so key. I think some people will just wait, like, okay, I'm waiting for
Yeah.
signs, like my life sucks, like give me a sign that
Yeah.
it's going to get better. But I think it's really important to remember that we have to ask those
Yeah.
questions, and we can get very specific or we can be, general. But I think when we start to ask those very specific questions and ask for a specific sign, we can start to essentially prove to ourselves, or I guess begin to trust ourselves
Yes,
is what it
exactly.
does.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, there's that old joke about the guy who there's a flood and the next door neighbor comes by and goes, we're leaving. Do you want to get in our car? And he's like, no, God will provide. And the flood's getting higher. And the guy comes by with a boat and he goes, do you want to get in the boat? He goes, no, God will provide. And now he's on top of his house and there's a helicopter and he goes, come on, do you want to come in? No, God will provide. And so he's at St. Peter's, gate. And he's like, St. Peter, like, what happened? He goes, who do you think sent the car, the boat, and the helicopter? Right? Like,
Right.
right. So often we are stiff arming our receiving. Like, no, 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 I got it. No, you don't got it. Like really being, and I think that has to do with warrior energy and women. We really like to be, really strong. But we are here to receive. And the divine universe, tree, Bob, God, cupcake, whatever you want to call it, is going to send other human beings to help you. It's not going to send a tree. I mean, it could, but that would be scary for us, right? And so you have to be open to receiving and really starting to say thank you and really let go of all the limiting around what that means for you.
hmm Yeah. And that story, so much says that these signs and the things that we are asking for, the answers that we're looking for, are not necessarily going to come down as this like sky opening up, God voice
Everybody
booming.
wants the golden ticket moment. Okay, there's so many little golden ticket moments like, my car and bar story with my dad. That is a golden ticket moment. That is a huge moment. The thing that the universe had to do to get all those parts together, that's freaking huge. But I've had so many little moments that added up to big ticket moments that you shouldn't dismiss those. You shouldn't dismiss that, I remember sitting on a park bench when I was like, I had to be like 25, 26, and just crying over this boy. And this this woman, she was like an everyday woman. She was eating her sandwich. And I was like stifling my cries. And she's like, he's just not worth it. Something better will come along. And I was like, what? Like, did God just speak to you? Like, what? Like, we dismiss all of those little miracles during the day because we're just taking them for granted. We want the big ticket moments, but those little tickets are ending in a big, huge evolution. and
Mhm.
transformation, and they're integrated in your life. If it's not integrated in your daily life, you're not going to do it.
Mhm. Yeah,
Right.
and, you may want to be careful what you ask for if you're asking for those big ticket moments because it could come in a really harsh package, right? It can
Mhm.
come down as, like, disease, accidents, harsh wake up calls, which is
Right.
often what ends up putting people on the spiritual path because they're at that rock bottom. It's just like, well,
Right.
you don't necessarily need the rock bottom had you have been potentially
Right.
listening to all these signs and welcoming the receiving before that. So that's another thing to be aware of, right? That it doesn't
Yeah.
always come in this like beautiful,
Like,
glorious.
right. And here's the thing. I really hate to suffer. I mean, I'm not good at it. And so I tune in every day. And the simplest thing I ask my soul is, what do I need to know today? That's the simplest thing, right? But very profound. And I can do that in the grocery store. I could do that in the shower. I can do that walking the dog. It can be integrated. You don't have to sit on a mountain. It can be an everyday thing, right? You don't need a special, like, silent retreat, although those are great. I've never done one, but I hear great things about them because me being silent, I think not, right? Right. So take, even if it's just a second more, just to pause and stop running through your life and start really fully participating, because that puts you in the flow, in abundance, in alignment with everything on this planet. And that's what miracles are.
Thank you for sharing that
Welcome.
about the integration and that it can be part of and that the more it is part of our everyday life, that we just ask that simple question, which took you 2 seconds to ask yourself, while you're showering,
Right.
and it doesn't have to be off in some expensive retreat, that we can do those things and connect in those ways and be one with our soul and source every day in our everyday. So, what other things are you doing besides asking lots of questions of yourself and then listening and receiving those answers? Tell us a little bit more about, I guess, soul language and how that is utilized because you can identify, you were saying the mission and then those three aspects. What does one do with that once they have that information? What would your advice be to do with that soul language
Yeah.
info?
So it's like having a great board meeting inside your body, right? So you can sit down and you can have those conversations. You can also do your elevator speech based on your soul languages. You can understand your talents and your gifts and explain it to others based on your soul languages. You can utilize your soul languages to move from unconscious or struggle to conscious behavior, right? You can utilize your soul to transform those limiting beliefs that are preventing you from receiving or being what your big vision is and what you can know that's inside of you. Um, you know, I'm always connected, so it becomes really second nature. And when I'm struggling, then there's the come to Jen meeting to sit down and go, what's going on? Why am I making war with this? It also gives you a bunch of key phrases to go, okay, I'm not happy. I'm not saying everyone has to be happy all the time, but rather I'm struggling.
Yeah.
How do I shift that? Or I'm doing really great and I still want to experience more. How do I expand on this? So it gives you a system to transform your life and keep transforming it and move to transcendence.
Mm.
So that's how we use our soul languages every day.
So you set people up with that information, almost like a blueprint or a business plan for their
Yeah.
soul.
Yeah. We do identification, which is done through an energetic exchange, through muscle testing. We do not take a test. We do not look at your birth date. It's literally your soul moving my body down a testing sheet. And then I teach people how to connect with them. And then we talk about real, tangible things that are going in their life, talk to their soul to shift that energy around that and to do something bigger for themselves or for others. Recently, I was working with a client and she's like, okay, I was talking to myself. I was looking at the money meditation. I was really connecting. My soul was going, let it go. All's going to be okay. And she goes, and then someone signed up for a $2,000 program in the next 20 minutes, like in 20 minutes. Like when we're connected, that shift can be huge and it can be instantaneously. Yet you've been doing all the work all the time. So there's no such thing as instant manifestation or instant transformation. It allows you a tool to always feel a deep sense of home within you. And when you feel that, you can create whatever you want.
Do you believe that we're all here for big soul missions, or that some of us maybe, or is there a gradient in missions, if you will?
I don't think there's a gradient in missions. I think there's spotlight in certain people's soul versus other people's soul. Um, but I've been profoundly impacted by souls that nobody else knows but me, right? Or a couple people. I think what allows people to have a big mission or experience bigness is knowing that they're whole and complete, right? And taking action from there. So there's souls that do have a calling to be in the spotlight, to share their service with the world. And then there's souls just to kind of be the everyday person. That doesn't mean that their mission isn't as big as mine. It just means their delivery systems are different.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, there's that old joke, like when you do past lives going, oh, I'm Cleopatra. Like, why isn't anyone like the guy,
Right.
like, right? The guy that's doing the horseshoes. I think that my people who come to me are masters of service. They are uh, wanting to be in the spotlight. Their soul does have that calling. They want to create movements, which is 100-year businesses, right? So that's the people I play with. And, highly creative, highly innovative artists, content creators, master healers. And yet I've done soul language IDs for people that are just, and I don't mean this in a judgmental way, they're just a mom, right? But having huge impact, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because her kids are freaking amazing
Yeah.
and they're going to do amazing things and touch people. So, yeah, every soul here with their action, with their free will, is here just to love and to offer support to others in profound ways and to have an impact. It's what we do with that.
Any final thoughts, feelings, sharings from your soul that you'd like to leave with us today?
Yeah, I want to remind people, if they want to be connected every day, that it's just a choice. It's a choice. And the more that we let go of those experiences, those beliefs, those situations that keep us on autopilot, that keep us from choosing, the more the choice gets easier and easier. And it doesn't have to be hard. It can be fun.
Mm-hmm.
That was a lot.
Yeah, more fun.
Yeah.
So beautiful. Thank you,
Thank
Jennifer.
you.
Thank you. Oh, Jen. Do you go by
Doesn't matter.
Jen?
Just don't call me Jenny.
Oh, yeah. Okay. We call it Jennifer, Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Anything.
for
You're
joining
so
us.
welcome.
Your
Thank you.
soul is alive and bright and so beautiful.
Thank
And
you.
I'm so honored to have shared some space with you. And we'll look forward to all of our future conversations. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank you.
Yeah.